So after the opening prayer, the assembly sits down, the presider sits down, and the liturgy of the word begins. On Sundays, we have 3 readings. First reading is usually from the Old Testament, then there's a psalm response. Second reading is always from the New Testament, and then we have the gospel. Usually the first reading and the gospel are chosen because there's some kind of correlation between the two. So perhaps the challenge is to look at those 2 readings and see what are the connections. And for us as Christians, we see the Old Testament as a foreshadowing and a preparation for the gospel. So there's a lot of correlation, a lot of overlap between that first reading and the gospel. The epistle, the second reading, just runs on its own cycle. So it doesn't always usually essentially match the other readings, but there's always matchups if a creative homilist looks for them. So really the liturgy of the readings is a moment when we listen to the Word of God. That the Bible isn't just the written word on the page, but it's a proclaimed word, it's a living word. It's God himself speaking to his people. And so we hear that word and we sit in this posture of listening to that word. So the liturgy of the word is really coming from the synagogue service of Jesus' time. And the first Christians were all Jewish, so they would go to the synagogue on Saturday to hear the word of God. They would celebrate the Eucharist on Sunday in honor of the resurrection of the Lord. Mass really puts those 2 together, the liturgy of the word, liturgy of the Eucharist. Daily Mass, there's just 1 reading, and then a psalm response, and then a gospel. If you go to Mass every day for 3 years, you're going to hear just about all of the scriptures proclaimed sequentially. And that's the fullness of that word of God proclaimed to us.